So first thing first, I want to thank my lawyers. I want to thank the jurors. I want to thank the judge, and I want to thank the respectful press. I really, really appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody at home supporting me. I know you guys having a little key with the moment, but to be honest with you, I have missed my kids' first day of school today. I missed my kids.
The cameras were still flashing when Cardi B stepped out of that courthouse, the noise of the crowd crashing around her like thunder, but her words sliced through the chaos. She did not wait for silence, she created it. She stood with her chin lifted, the weight of exhaustion pressing into her shoulders, and yet she let the world know she wasn't going to crumble. She thanked her lawyers, the jurors, the judge, and even the press, but her gratitude carried an edge, a warning tucked inside every syllable. She wasn't just another celebrity walking away from another lawsuit. She was a mother who had just missed her children's milestones, and the bitterness of that loss coated every word she spoke. She confessed to missing her kids' first day of school, missing their last week of the semester, all because of what she called a baseless attack on her name. The exhaustion in her tone wasn't staged, it was the sound of a woman who had been forced to trade family moments for courtroom battles, but what she gave next was no soft plea for sympathy. It was fire. Cardi B declared in front of cameras that even if she was on her deathbed, she would swear the same truth: she did not touch that woman. She did not put her hands on that girl. She repeated it with fury, with passion, as though she wanted the echo to live forever in every headline. She was done being silent, done being the target of easy accusations, and she said it plain: this was the last time she would tolerate it. If another frivolous lawsuit came, she would countersue, and she would make the accuser pay. No more quick settlements. No more assumptions that she was an ATM waiting to be robbed. Her voice cracked, but her words landed like stone, she told the world that celebrities are often painted as walking paychecks, that people assumed they could demand money just because of a name, but she wasn't going to play into that trap. She reminded the cameras, the jurors, the fans at home, she worked hard for her money. She did not lie in bed all day living off fame. She worked, every single day, for her kids, for her family, for the people depending on her. And she promised she would not allow that hard-earned money to be snatched away under false pretenses. The defiance in her voice was heavy, and the crowd could feel the shift. She wasn't just defending herself, she was sending a message to every opportunist watching from the sidelines. Still, buried inside her fire, she tried to show humanity. She asked her fans not to harass Ellis, not to stalk her family online, not to call her ugly or drag her appearance. She begged them not to waste their energy on hate. She wanted this to end with the courtroom, not explode on social media. She wanted to walk away and let Ellis do the same. But even in that attempt at closure, her warning remained clear: she was not the celebrity who would bow down and hand over money just to keep the peace. She was ready to fight to the last word, the last breath, to protect her name, and yet there was humor hidden in her exhaustion. She laughed bitterly about her wigs, about how many times she had changed them to keep herself together during this trial. She said her forehead was raw from pulling them on and off, and in that crack of levity, she revealed how much of herself she had been forced to give up just to survive these weeks. She had been balancing an album rollout, late nights in the studio, early mornings preparing for court, and still she managed to stand in front of cameras polished, powerful, and unapologetic. That balance, the grind of music and the gravity of trial, became part of her narrative. She wanted people to see not just a star, but a woman being pulled in two directions and refusing to let either one break her. But when the microphones turned toward Ellis, the tone of the air shifted. She stood firm, her voice calm but her eyes carrying disappointment. She told the world she was not happy with the verdict, but she was not broken either. She admitted she knew the justice system had flaws, and she believed she had just been swallowed by one. Still, she said, she was proud she came to court, proud she stood up for herself, proud she forced Cardi B to look her in the eye. That, to her, was its own kind of victory. She repeated that she had no regrets about filing the case. She did not feel shame for bringing her truth to the stand, even if the verdict did not fall her way. And then came the line that pierced like a knife. When asked if she was still a fan of Cardi B, Ellis didn't hesitate. No, she had once admired the music, the image, the energy, but that chapter was finished. Asked if she'd listened to the new album set to drop in just days, she shook her head: not at all. In that moment, the heartbreak of betrayal transformed into defiance. The woman who had once cheered from the crowd had now become the voice of resistance, the fan-turned foe who could not be bought back with beats or bars. That shift created its own drama, the kind of narrative that fans online would devour: the fall of admiration, the rise of accusation. Her lawyer, Ron Rosen, spoke next, and his bitterness was thick. He painted Cardi B as unprofessional, mocking her behavior during trial. He described body gestures, facial expressions, moments of disrespect he claimed proved her true nature. He even accused her of throwing something inside the courthouse that very day, right in front of the media. He called it shameful, proof that her arrogance had no boundaries, and said she had made a fool of herself. He positioned Ellis as the one who maintained composure, who carried herself with grace, while Cardi B revealed herself as chaotic and disrespectful. But bitterness alone wasn't his final note. He promised more. He told the press that appeals were already being planned. He would not share details yet, but he hinted there were many reasons the verdict could be overturned. He said different juries in different courts could produce 10 different outcomes, and this case would not die here. The fight was not over, and so, the stage was set for a new war, not in the courtroom, but in the streets of public opinion. One side shouting innocence, family, hard work, and resilience. The other side claiming disrespect, arrogance, and injustice. The jurors had given their verdict, but the verdict of the people was just beginning to form. Fans online were already splitting into factions, some praising Cardi B for standing her ground, others sympathizing with Ellis for daring to go against a star. The drama was only expanding, spreading from courthouse steps to social media feeds, from legal documents to blog headlines. The cameras did not capture just a verdict that day, they captured the birth of a narrative that would not end. Cardi B left swearing she would never pay another baseless claim. Ellis left swearing she would never admire the woman she once loved again. And the crowd, the fans, the media, they left knowing this was not closure. This was the beginning of something louder, messier, and far more public than anything a courtroom could contain. The courthouse may have closed its doors for the day, but the story was only opening wider. Inside, the verdict had been delivered, but outside, the battle for perception was raging louder than any gavel. As reporters pushed microphones toward every angle of this case, Ellis stood with a quiet kind of defiance. Her face was calm, but her words carried a sting. She admitted she wasn't satisfied, admitted she believed the system had failed her, but she didn't shrink. She said she had stood up, told her truth, and forced Cardi B to look her in the eye. And that moment, she insisted, was something no verdict could erase. To her, it was not just about money, not about fame, but about accountability. She wanted the world to know she had taken her fight directly to the woman she accused, and she had not backed down, but the cameras wanted more. They pressed harder, asking whether she regretted bringing the case, whether she wished she had walked away before it became so public. Ellis shook her head. Not at all, she said, her voice sharper this time. She was proud that she had dared to go against someone as powerful as Cardi B, proud that she had made her stand. She said she could leave knowing she didn't hide. In shadows, she didn't just post from the sidelines, she came forward, put her name on the line, and told her story in front of the world. And when she was asked if she would ever again listen to the woman whose music once filled her playlists, she snapped that chapter shut with finality. No, there was no hesitation, no softness left. The transformation was complete. The fan who once cheered now walked away scarred and hardened, vowing never to let the music seduce her again. Her lawyer, Ron Rosen, amplified the sting. He stood tall before the cameras, delivering words that bled bitterness but also carried the weight of a man who had no intention of giving up. He accused Cardi B of showing nothing but disrespect during the trial. He described her body language, her facial expressions, her gestures. He said every move exposed her character, revealing arrogance, a lack of control, and a disregard for the dignity of the court. And then came his most biting accusation. He claimed that even on that very day, inside that courthouse, Cardi B had thrown something. He said it was proof of her recklessness, proof that her defiance was more than words, it was an action that mocked the very system she claimed to respect. His voice trembled with outrage as he insisted that her behavior had embarrassed not just herself but the entire process. He told the press he disagreed deeply with the verdict, that he believed the jury had overlooked too much, and that justice had not been served.
Monty, are you disappointed with the verdict?
Not at all. I don't think that it reflects the truth, but I'm not disappointed. We know that the justice system is sometimes flawed, and unfortunately, that was the case for me. Like I said, I still stand firm on my position. I still stand firm on my attorney. I think we fought a good fight, but like I said, more importantly, it's about accountability. I had my day in court. I showed up. I held my head high.
But he wasn't done. He declared openly that an appeal was coming. He said he had already spoken with appellate lawyers, already mapped out potential grounds, already prepared to take this case higher. He didn't give specifics, holding his cards close, but he promised the fight would not end here. He said different juries could see the same case in 10 different ways, and he was confident that another courtroom, another set of eyes, could see what this one missed. His words transformed the loss into a rallying cry, a warning that the story had only just begun its next chapter. The clash of narratives became sharper by the hour. Cardi B had sworn to her fans that she was innocent, swore she would never again let anyone use her name as an ATM. She positioned herself as a hardworking mother, fighting for her children, fighting against exploitation, standing tall in the face of lies. But Ellis and her lawyer painted her as disrespectful, arrogant, a woman who could not control her temper, a celebrity who believed she was above the law. The contrast was striking: two truths, two realities, two performances unfolding before the cameras. And the public, hungry for drama, began to devour every angle, every clip, every quote. The press dug deeper, asking Ellis if she felt she had been painted in a bad light throughout the case. She nodded, admitting that the defendant had tried to frame her as a liar, as someone seeking money, as someone desperate for attention. But she pushed back with her own truth. She said she knew who she was, knew the things she had accomplished. And no matter how she was portrayed, she refused to let anyone rewrite her story. Her calm tone carried an undertone of pain, the quiet ache of a woman who had once admired the person standing across from her, only to now be portrayed as an enemy. And then came the revelation that struck deeper than most expected. Reporters asked her about Cardi B's plea to the public, her request that fans not harass Ellis online, not call her names, not stalk her family. Ellis blinked, genuinely surprised. "That's news to me," she said. She claimed she had never heard those words directly, never received an apology, never been extended even the slightest gesture of compassion. To her, the plea was hollow, a performance for the cameras, a way for Cardi B to look gracious without ever extending actual grace. It was one of the sharpest contradictions of the day, one side claiming peace, the other claiming ignorance of that peace offering. The public watching had no way to know which version to believe, and that uncertainty became fuel for endless debate online. The courtroom had been the stage for lawyers, but outside, the media became the jury, and the verdict shifted with every headline. Some called Cardi B brave, a mother refusing to be exploited, standing up for herself in a system designed to bleed stars dry. Others called her reckless, her behavior in court proof of arrogance, her fire outside proof that she thrived on chaos. And then there were those who sympathized with Ellis, the woman who had once been a fan, now reduced to a target in a celebrity war. The divide was messy, emotional, and loud, the perfect storm for the internet to feast on. By nightfall, hashtags had already begun trending. Clips of Cardi B's fiery speech spread across Instagram and Twitter, her vow to never pay out another baseless case going viral in seconds. Fans created edits of her repeating, "I did not touch that woman," looping it with beats, turning her courtroom denial into a chorus. At the same time, clips of Ellis saying, "I was once a fan, but no more," spread like wildfire, a soundbite that spoke to the heartbreak of betrayal. The narrative was no longer confined to lawyers and jurors, it belonged to the streets, to the blogs, to the endless cycle of memes, reactions, and arguments, the appeal, the denial, the accusations. Everything now lived in the space between reality and spectacle. Cardi B had positioned herself as the victim of exploitation, Ellis had positioned herself as the victim of arrogance, and the world was left to choose sides. What the jury decided inside the courtroom no longer mattered as much as what millions of voices were deciding outside. The war had shifted, and neither side was backing down. The courthouse lights dimmed, but the flames of this case refused to die out. The verdict might have been unanimous, but outside in the world that thrived on gossip and spectacle, nothing was unanimous. Cardi B had stood proud, shouting her innocence, telling the world she would never again be a celebrity who could be milked for quick settlements. Her vow to countersue the next accuser had echoed across social media like a warning shot. Fans clipped her words, turned them into soundbites, flooded timelines with her raw defiance. But at the same time, Ellis and her lawyer refused to fade. Their promise to appeal hung heavy in the air, and their accusations about her disrespect inside the courtroom only added gasoline to an already raging fire. By the third day after the verdict, the headlines weren't about the case itself anymore. They were about the clash of images. Cardi B, the mother who claimed she missed her kid's school because of a lie, who worked through sleepless nights balancing an album rollout with a courtroom battle. Ellis, the former fan who claimed she had been dragged into the mud, who swore she was painted unfairly but would not let her name be silenced. Their faces dominated every blog post, every podcast, every gossip reel. It wasn't about evidence now, it was about who the people believed, who they sympathized with, and who they wanted to see fall. Inside the industry, whispers turned into debates. Some insiders said Cardi B had gained strength from this verdict, that she would use it as fuel to market her album, spinning the story into an anthem of resilience. Others worried the controversy would stain her rollout, that fans might side with Ellis and question whether their idol had crossed a line. The streets, however, weren't thinking about marketing plans, they were thinking about loyalty. They repeated her vow like scripture, "I did not touch that woman." To some, it was a confession of truth. To others, it was a polished performance and... Yet, through all of it, Ellis refused to vanish into silence. She gave more interviews, each one sharper than the last. She admitted that she once admired Cardi B, that her playlists once carried her songs, but she now saw the star as arrogant, disrespectful, unrepentant. She repeated that she never received an apology, never received even a shred of compassion, and that to her proved the coldness of her character. Every time she spoke, the wound between fan and idol deepened, becoming a storyline too dramatic for even reality TV to script. The betrayal of a fan who became a foe, the court case that had turned into a cultural reckoning, it was irresistible to the blogs, irresistible to the public. Meanwhile, Ron Rosen doubled down. He called her behavior in court a disgrace, telling every reporter who would listen that she mocked the system, that she thought she was untouchable, and that her actions in that courthouse would be remembered long after the verdict. He hammered the appeal angle again, refusing to back away from his vow to take the case higher. His voice carried the rage of a lawyer who believed he had been cheated out of justice, and in that rage, he gave Ellis her backbone. Together, they painted Cardi B not as a victim, but as a bully who laughed her way through trial, disrespecting everyone in the room. But Cardi B wasn't silent either. She leaned into her power, flooding social media with clips of her life outside court, studio sessions, family moments, laughter with her children, all woven into a new narrative she controlled. She told her fans she was exhausted, that her forehead was still raw from wigs, that she had given more than she should have, but she also told them she wasn't broken. She was gearing up for her album drop, and she wanted the world to know she wasn't going to let anyone's lawsuit stop her shine. It became a clash of visibility, Ellis in interviews, Cardi B in reels and live streams, both women refusing to let the public forget. By the end of that week, the battle had become bigger than them. It had become about celebrities and lawsuits. About whether fame made you a target or whether it gave you too much arrogance to be accountable. Fans argued in comment sections, bloggers dissected body language, YouTubers made hour-long breakdowns of her courthouse speech. It was no longer just Cardi versus Ellis, it was everyone who had ever doubted the justice system versus everyone who had ever doubted a celebrity's innocence. It was messy, it was emotional, and it was unstoppable, and as if the spectacle wasn't enough, whispers of the appeal began to leak online. Rumors of new evidence, rumors of judges reviewing transcripts, rumors that Ellis might yet win a second shot. Whether true or not, the speculation kept the story alive, kept fans refreshing blogs, kept the drama swirling. Because if there was one thing this case had proven, it was that a verdict didn't end a war, it only moved it to a bigger stage. So the story closed on no closure at all. Cardi B walked away with a legal victory but a public storm. Ellis walked away with a legal loss but a growing platform of sympathy. Ron Rosen walked away with anger, promising more. And the people walked away with their popcorn, waiting for the next twist. The courthouse had delivered its judgment, but the streets of the internet had only just begun theirs. And in that clash between verdict and narrative, innocence and accusation, family and fame, one thing was certain, the case may have ended, but the drama had only just begun.